What's up, expats and travelers alike? Today we're here to talk about, well, Q&A. So today's a Q&A for Portugal. You guys have been so amazing at writing a ton of questions in the comment section. So we thought it'd be beneficial to dig into that comment section on all the videos that we've done so far, which is 6, and we're going to answer your questions. So here we go.
All right, so we've had a lot of questions through comments on here and then also in our email. So the first thing that has been something that's been a lot has been about the FBI background checks. So let's just take a look. Akila Dams, hope I'm saying that right, said, great video. How long did it take for your FBI fingerprints to come back approved after you e-filed them? Did you receive them back snail mail or via email?
Yeah, so how long did it take? Well, the whole process, we went into fast FingerPrints, and it took maybe like 5-10 minutes waiting in the waiting room for that. Then they took us back and we did our digital fingerprints with them, so no messy ink like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So they did the digital fingerprints. That took probably 5-10 minutes. We get printout, we pay.
We have an application that we have to also email. So the fingerprints, like Josh said, are digital, which is really nice. And go to Fast Fingerprinting. They're the ones that have some sort of connection with the FBI background checks. So they're all over the country. So just go on there and take a look at making an appointment. And then we get an application and they tell us exactly what we need to do, which is really nice. And we send this application in. It's just a scan. You fill out something, scan it, email it in, and then they just give you something, a confirmation saying that it's been received. And at that point, they submit everything else. So that's a really quick process. And then after all of that went through, we ended up getting in the mail our actual fingerprints about a week and a half later.
Yes, but we didn't open them.
Right, so that's a big thing that VFS says. If you open them, you have to get them apostilled, which is a whole other thing. So we just got this big envelope with the fingerprints. I think inside there were actually probably sealed envelopes with the, not the fingerprints, the criminal record, but we didn't open anything. So we e-filed, in a sense, everything was done electronically to them, and then they mailed back our criminal report about a week and a half later.
Yep.
So that kind of goes along with the next question, too, from some guy. Funny name.
I love that name, some guy, because when we read it, it's like some guy says.
Yeah. Hey, Josh and Kaylee, would you mind explaining how you did the FBI background process in a bit more detail, which we just pretty much did.
Yep.
This is the most confusing part of the package for us. Where did you go for the fingerprints? There you
Fast
go.
fingerprints.
Mm-hmm. The cost. We're going to put the cost down here. Did they send a paper copy? Assume you got an electronic copy. So we actually didn't get an electronic copy of our criminal background. Right. You can pay more for that, but for us, we decided not to because we didn't really need it. We know what it says. Criminals. Yeah, we know what it says. We've done this before, and we've seen them. We know what it says, and we didn't need an electronic copy because we didn't want to pay extra. But if you want, you can. But you need to have the mailed-in copy. That's what goes to the embassy.
Yeah.
And what about the apostille requirement? Again, we said if you open them, you got to get them apostille. Don't do that.
Don't open them.
We've been seeing people say you don't need it if you send the paper copy unopened, but still confused on what VFS is telling everyone. And VFS told us don't open them. I'm assuming you guys will be going through the DC Consulate and just sent the packets to VFS for them to process first. I mention this because I know different consulates have different requirements, but we will have DC since we are living in Alabama. Yeah,
so we had DC as well. We have residents in Tennessee. We're currently in Florida, so both of those were DC, so DC it is. It's kind of funny though, during the process, we really think that it was sent to VFS Global, and then someone from VFS Global just straight up walked our stuff over to the consulate. So, yeah.
Probably. You know how they do that. So that kind of segues into the next question about the consulate. Just to be clear, you did not have to go to the consulate in the U.S. in person to apply for visas. Thanks. That was from Surrealist Gesture.
You know, I love this question because we had the same exact question. It is so stinking confusing on the website, and I must have asked the poor VFS people like 3 or 4 different times. So we don't have to go to DC, right? Now, we don't need to go to DC, is that right? We don't have to go to DC, right? And I was kind of hoping to go to DC, but I was hoping they would say yes. But no, they said we did not need to, and I was surprised.
Right. Seems kind of interesting because it seems like through some of the information, it sounds like you're going to have to make an appointment, right? That's what they say. To make an appointment, do this.
Yeah.
But with the DC, you don't have to. Now, San Francisco is the other one in VFS, and that deals with different states. They have different
requirements.
Yeah, different stuff going on. And we've actually been correspondence with someone who's going through the San Francisco office through email, and they're having kind of different requirements. So check that out to see which state you're in and what that is supposed to be like, because it's different for us. Okay, next we've got about the healthcare stuff. 9 degrees. Hi guys, to reach the visa requirements, do you need to buy 6 months or 1 year of health insurance? Also, €150 per month is for one person or for one family. Thanks.
Yeah, so that one's an interesting question. Like, obviously the price for the healthcare, it's all going to depend. It is going to be 100% dependent on what you want. So do you want international coverage or do you want domestic coverage? Because domestic coverage is a possibility. I'm not exactly sure how you shop for that yourself, but let's say that you go through an immigration lawyer and you're paying that lawyer to do a bunch of other things, not just with the application packet, but also bank account stuff and giving you an address to stay at so that you don't have to book a place sight unseen like we did. So they should be able to help you get a domestic insurance plan. So it'll be something like what the Portuguese people would pay for insurance. So that would probably be like $100 or so per month. But for us, because we went ahead and did an international plan, because we do plan on traveling. And if we go outside of Portugal and maybe we go out of the continent of Europe, we still want to have coverage and, you know, not get smashed with all sorts of crazy hospital fees.
Right.
So for us, it was €500 or no, €500 for the whole family. If it was an individual, it'd probably be around $250 to $300 because it was all bundled together. It was a little cheaper.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. I know we've seen people say that you get it cheaper, but keep in mind you want to try to decide, do I just want it for Portugal, for the local, or do I want it internationally? Just like any other health insurance, it depends on what you want to choose, like what kind of coverage you want and your deductible and those things. So you have to take that into consideration, what's best for you and your family. So that's just the route that we went, and we went through Insured Nomads. There's lots of options, and like Josh said, you can go through lawyers to help you out. This is just the route that we went, but there are those types of options.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's right. 9 Degrees also asked, did we buy 6 months or a year?
Well, we ended up buying a year because the visa that we have is for at least a year plus. So you can get the visas that are less than a year, or you can get the visas that are 1 year or more.
Now, it seems like, though, with VFS, the requirements just say proof of insurance.
Yeah.
So vague, of course.
Yeah.
So that makes it seem like it doesn't actually have to be for a year. So if you find some sort of policy that you can do a rolling month to month, it sounds like you can do that. And we have seen that some people have said that they can turn it off and on and start it when they want. So lots of options here. Generally, when you do shorter, like month by month, it ends up being more expensive.
Yeah.
We know that we are going to need it at least for a year because we plan on being at least in Portugal or traveling for at least a year. So we just went ahead and did that package, locked that price in, and then we're good to go for a year, and then we'll see after that.
And here's the cool thing, this is just a little bonus. If we are, for some reason, denied our visas to Portugal, we still have that insurance. We can switch the residency on it, and we still have it. We're still paying probably the same amount. And yeah, it's already set up, good to go.
Right, so we will be going somewhere else if we're denied.
Yeah.
We're ready to go. Okay, so then Thomas Hawker, so for your family, what is the monthly cost for health insurance through Insured Nomads? Maybe I missed it somewhere. Sorry if I did.
Yeah, it's like €515 per month.
Again, really depends on how many people are in your family, what kind of coverage you want. So there's lots of options out there. You just have to find what's best for you. This is what's worked for us.
Yeah, we're two mid-30s adults, healthy adults, and then we have a baby that is under a year old who's also healthy.
Yeah, so far. Okay, so next up, we've got some people asking about time. Nancy Whitman, what date did you start the process?
So Nancy, I'm glad that you asked that question. We've actually intentionally tried to start out each vlog with what day it is, and we give the date up in the top corner because we do think that's important to know kind of like the timeline of how long this thing takes. Now, VFS is pretty adamant, and also the consulate is pretty adamant about this whole 60-day thing. We learned that today on a phone call, which we're going to share in a separate video. But basically, we're putting all of the dates in there. We started this process mid-July.
Yes, getting things together. And then once we got everything together and stuff opened up because of the ban, we ended up sending our stuff off at the beginning of August. And it ended up making its way to the consulate on August 12th.
Yep.
So it's been at the consulate. They're supposed to make a decision within 60 days. August 12th. We leave the country October 13th. So, a little tight.
I mean, they know what our day to leave is because they've got all that paperwork. So they can make us sweat.
Yeah.
But then they could also be really nice and be like, yeah, we're going to give you guys 2 or 3 days to relax and know that you're going.
So give yourself a little bit of time to get everything together because like you've seen in our earlier vlogs, we had to run all over town getting the money orders and doing the fingerprints to get the FBI background check. So you have all that stuff leading up for your documents and then you send that off to VFS. And again, like we've said in our earlier vlogs, VFS is really fast. So once they get the stuff, if they have to contact you, they will, and then they'll send that off. They did that under 48 hours. Once they received our stuff, they got to the consulate quickly. So right now, when we've seen through the tracking that it's at the consulate.
Yeah.
And so we're closing in on, I guess it's only been about 20, 25 days at this point that it's been at the consulate.
Exactly.
So hopefully they hurry. Okay, next we have Artur João Costa Rebelo. Sorry, that's probably Portuguese and I'm butchering it, which is awful since we're going to Portugal. You going for D7 visa or golden visa? We're doing the D7 visa.
We'd love to have the money to do the golden visa.
One day. So the D7 is living out of individual revenue. So you just have to prove that you have money and that you're making money. Your contracts showing that you're making money. So obviously we're doing that digitally.
Yep.
All right, on to a flight question. 9 degrees again. Thanks for all your comments.
Yeah.
Hi guys, thanks for the great video. Very helpful. You mentioned round flight tickets may be required by D7 visa. What is the conclusion? Is one-way ticket okay? So we actually did get clarification on this. Now, before we did all of our stuff, it was this, do we not? This says yes, this says no, this says maybe. And VFS wasn't getting back to us. So again, we did talk about this in an earlier vlog. We actually did a round trip ticket just because there's a concert I want to come back for in May that was supposed to be this year that was postponed until May of next year. So we're coming back for that anyway. And we just decided, well, since I'm going to do that, we'll just all come back. We'll get that return flight.
But for the people, do they need to do the round trip or not?
I heard back from VFS and no. For a D7, they said, VFS Global said, you do not need a round trip ticket.
Dang. Could have saved money.
It's cheap right now anyway.
It is cheap. We
did the round trip so I could do the concert. And if the concert's postponed again, then we just won't come back. Maybe. We'll see. So, clarification. For the D7, you do not need a round trip ticket.
Which makes sense, right? Because you're going to be there, like you want to be there long term. It's a long-term residency visa. Why you got to fly back home?
Yeah, that seems really silly. That's why when we saw that, we're like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. But a lot of stuff doesn't make sense. Okay, moving on. COVID. We've had a lot of COVID questions, and this is also something that's been back and forth.
If you guys are seeing this like 6 months, a year from now, hopefully we're not still dealing with COVID and just fast forward to this spot.
Skip ahead. Okay, Chad McCulley. We have been planning our move to Portugal for 2 years and are delayed primarily due to the ban on U.S. citizens traveling to the EU. So sorry for that. Yeah. I see you've been working through the processes, though. How are you able to set travel plans without having the ability to know you can travel on specific dates, even with a D7?
Okay, so here's the skinny with that. The flights have now opened up from the U.S. to Portugal, really the U.S. to a lot of European places, if you are legal to be there. So what that means is you can't go there on a tourist visa still. I mean, as of right now, which is September 5th. So today's September 5th, and as of right now, there's still a ban on tourism, right? But if you get your residence visa, you're no longer a tourist. You're going there with a definitive purpose. You have a legal right to be in the country. So you're good to go. So start your paperwork now. VFS gave us the green light. Actually, technically, we were waiting on VFS to open up because back at the end of June, the consulate opened up. So Portugal opened up and VFS hadn't because they deemed it wasn't safe to get their workers back to work.
Yeah, but we were told by the consulate to go through VFS, so it's like, well, you guys are open, but they're not, so what are we supposed to do? So yes, they finally opened. So unfortunately, tourism is still closed, hopefully not for much longer. But if it's your D7, then you should be good to go. And I have heard...
60 days from right now, you can be in Portugal. Let's go.
And I have heard some people saying that they're going on this 90-day study exemption.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is.
I'm not either.
But apparently that works too. I think it's the temporary visa, because there's the one that you could do under 6 months. So maybe if you apply for that temporary visa that's under 6 months, that should work as well, because it's not the tourist visa.
Right.
Normally, Americans can just get on a flight, arrive in Portugal or in Europe, in the EU, and just go through the immigration with no prior thing before.
Yeah, when we say tourist visa, we don't actually mean that Americans have to get literal visas. It's that when you do tourism in Europe, in the Schengen countries, you have 90 days in a 180-day period to be in the Schengen countries. That's all that we're saying. So it's not technically a visa, but you're there on tourism.
So we are going to be vlogging again very soon, because we've gotten some more recent information about COVID. Again, this could change as well, considering we don't leave for another month.
Yep.
But we do have an idea now of what needs to be done for COVID.
Yep.
So be on the lookout for that vlog, because we will be going more in depth about that COVID process on what we know. And that'll be coming out soon. So check for that.
Next question.
So jobs. People have been asking us about our jobs. So we have Florencia Drum. Binge watched all your moving to Portugal videos just now. Yeah, thanks. You guys are great. Yeah. My husband and I can't wait to make the move. My in-laws already did. But what about jobs? That's our only concern. I guess how to move our careers abroad.
So we had jobs that were digital before all of this happened. Before COVID, we started working with companies that allowed us to work digitally, allowing us to work anywhere in the world. Before that, we were both teachers at an international school, and then we transitioned into these jobs that were digital jobs. All the meanwhile, we're running expats everywhere, and we have some other things that we're working on, other projects. So we have these different sources of revenue that are coming in, which hopefully makes us look strong on paper so that the consulate will give us the visa. That's all we're going based off of. You know, we can't say definitively like, this is how much you need, or yes, we're going to get accepted because of this. We don't know. Like, we're literally waiting. You guys are waiting with us to know if we're going to get this visa. But the D7 visa, we have digital jobs. I work kind of doing data analysis, and
I work in compliance for clients that I have, so everything's digital.
Yeah.
Now, something that we did see on the Portuguese embassy website is when it does throw out a number, it says that the average amount that someone makes, a local, is 635 euros. So you need to prove that you make at least that. That hasn't really come up too much, though, with the paperwork.
Once.
It came up once, yeah, with the actual, when the embassy called us, which we will be vlogging a bit more about that, because we have some more details for that as well.
Yeah.
So that has kind of come up, but there's not been, like Josh said, a definitive number of this is how much you need to make to be able to get this visa. Now, as far as your careers, if you work digitally, then you can kind of go through the same process as us. If you don't, then that's something to consider. If you want to move to Portugal, you got to consider what that does for you in your job. So we can't really say for that, but we can just say for us digitally. Yeah,
and we found this little income formula. I'm going to find it and try to put the graphic in here, but it was like the first person or primary person, 635 euros, and then the spouse, 50% of that, and then the kid, 10% of that, or something like that. And then you had this like magic number that you needed to have as a minimum.
Yeah,
something
of what
strange.
You make. Yeah.
But anyways,
that hasn't really come up though.
Not at all.
So we'll give you that to get an idea. But VFS never really said anything like this is too low, this is too high, this is enough. So we're not really sure if that calculator works.
Well, I would hope they would say this isn't too high.
This isn't too high.
This is too high.
Something also to consider is if you're going on a D7, you can't work in Portugal. So for careers, that means that you're making your own money like we are digitally, or some other revenue, retirees. But if you want to work in Portugal as a career, move that over there, you have to have a different visa. So keep that in mind.
Yep.
Melly
Let's go with it.
What jobs will you take on once you move to Portugal? I'm new to your channel. So we pretty much just answered that as well. Thanks for the question. And Raybon, so do you have any tangible reason for moving there, like affordability, benefits for expats, exchange of dollars, language? I'm comparing it to other places.
So I guess when you mean like exchange of dollars, you mean the value for money in Portugal. And I would definitely say that the value for money in Portugal as a whole is much better than the US as a whole. Obviously, you can go to some places, some small towns in the US and it's cheap, but then you can also go to some small towns in Portugal and it's even cheaper. So is that a major reason? Yeah, kind of. I mean, we can certainly live a nicer lifestyle on the salary that we're making here, there. But I think overall for us, it's just being abroad. Like we feel, we've gotten so used to living abroad that we feel like a duck out of water back home as opposed to being abroad. Like I personally love the tension of being abroad and kind of being a foreigner and, you know, the challenges of having to stumble your way around a place or a language or whatever. I find it fun.
I don't really like that.
I feel like I'm living.
I don't know if I would say that's fun. I don't mind it, but
don't say it's fun.
I don't say it's fun. I do like bigger cities though, and obviously a lot of the U.S. is more like the suburbs, and so I like big cities.
Well, I mean, we could live in a big city in the U.S., but the problem in the U.S. I think is cost, and another C, crime.
Oh, crime. Yeah,
crime.
That's true.
I mean,
yeah.
like. Well, I don't mean to crap on the US, but like you guys know, I'm assuming that most people watching this video are Americans. Our big cities aren't necessarily the safest. There's this feeling that you get when you walk around a US city, or at least I feel that way, that I just don't feel in major international cities. Well, I
think you should clarify.
Okay, that's true.
It depends on what country you're in.
Yeah, but Portugal, you don't feel that way at all. Like, Portuguese people are really friendly. Yeah.
So we chose Portugal because a while back we lived in Spain, and we had visited Portugal several times and just really fell in love with it. And we always call it the hidden gem of Europe because especially Americans, you don't really think to go to Portugal when you're traveling to Europe. So
no, you think of, let's go to Rome, let's go to Paris, let's go to London.
Right. All those main spots. So we really liked Portugal, and living there, we just thought that people were friendly. Again, the cost of living is nice. Just the lifestyle, living is good. Weather is good. So these are reasons that we chose Portugal.
Yep.
So that kind of moves us into Mariana K, who asked, hey guys, why Portugal and not Spain? Prices of houses and food doesn't seem much different. Clearly, you guys got to explain it to your viewers. I also want to know, well, let's answer that first.
Yeah, well, I guess in a way we can answer this fairly well because we did live in Spain. We lived there for 2 years, and then we spent like 4 different trips, 2 months total in Portugal. I know that's not like living there, but at least it gave us some foundation to compare the two. I would say, and my Spanish friends might be mad at me for saying this, I would say Portuguese people are friendlier than Spanish people. I don't think they're going to get mad when I say that the cost of living in Portugal is cheaper than in Spain. What else?
Well, for me, I mean, the main thing for me is since we already lived in Spain, I like to try something different.
She hates doubling back to places.
Yeah, and a big thing is we lived in Madrid, and I really like being on the coast. So just something that's closer to water. So just something different, too. So, I mean, Spain is an option. I'm not really sure what their visa process is like, though. I mean, Portugal, we know that to get the D7, it isn't too difficult, whereas it's much more difficult in different countries, or you have to be making more. I'm not sure what it is in Spain.
Yeah, Portugal's definitely more open to people like us. I mean, that sounds bad. Like people that have digital jobs. They're more open to people that have their own source of income.
Yeah.
For sure.
So more on that from her. Do you guys feel more safe in Portugal? Not necessarily.
I didn't feel unsafe in Madrid. I mean, there were definitely spots of Madrid where I didn't like walking around at night. I definitely didn't want her walking around at night, and we didn't do that.
I think you have the same issues with pickpocketing.
Yeah, we've heard the same thing about Lisbon and some spots of Porto. Yeah. We haven't seen it, and we also haven't lived there. But we've heard it. Yeah.
And we've seen it in Madrid.
We've seen it in Madrid. Like friends and a lot of friends actually told us things that had happened to them.
Continuing with that one, there's many Americans coming over for financial independence, seems. Me, myself, I was in France and ended going to Portugal to buy a cheaper house. I haven't regretted so far. Good.
Awesome.
So basically, if you guys decide to retire in the near future in Portugal, what will be your guys' income? Internet jobs. So far, there's people all over the world coming to live. Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, France, etc. Everyone likes peace and an affordable home with some land. But definitely the peace and quiet is also a peace of mind. You guys got to talk a little bit more about your plans. We also want to know. Okay, so that's really nice.
You want to know about our life?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So I think we pretty much answered that. Thanks for the questions. It kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing digitally, the jobs that we have, why we're choosing Portugal. And yeah, we're really looking forward to it because it is peaceful there, and just definitely looking forward to being in Porto. We visited Porto and Lisbon, and they're both great, but we just really like Porto, which is why we've chosen there, among other places in Portugal.
Yeah, and just to give you guys a little background on Expats Everywhere, since you've hung around for this whole interview here, we started out Expats Everywhere when we were living in Saudi Arabia, and the original kind of business model of Expats Everywhere was to be business to consumer, or B2C expat consultants. So we would talk to individuals about how to become an expat, get them prepared for that by sourcing, it was almost like a bespoke service, sourcing information for them that directly related to their thing, right? And we just got to the point where we enjoyed the content creation and the YouTube side of things more. We started to get a little better at it. Hopefully you guys have been following not only this Portugal journey, but our Expats Everywhere journey, and you've seen these different steps that we've taken. And really, we want to get into full-time media, expat media, and content creation. So we're making a big push over the next 12 months to do that. Any of your support, whether it's hitting the like button, subscribing, commenting on stuff, all of that stuff helps. Donating when we get our Patreon set up, all that stuff helps, because honestly, we're super passionate about the expat life. We have fallen in love with it. We want to get more and more and better content out to you guys. So really, I mean, that's what's up with Expats Everywhere. I hope that kind of digs even further into that question that you had, and just lets you know kind of who we are and how we feel.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so wrapping up, just a few more, some resources, people asking for resources. DK said, hi guys, can you please provide the best site so that I may get a list and obtain all the requirements and restrictions of traveling and moving to Portugal, please and thank you. So we've been going through VFS and also the Portuguese Embassy website. We'll put those both in the description below so that you can find those. And then Fred Wang, good luck with your trip. We will start the Portugal D7 process next year. Are you aware of a U.S. expat community or online forum so that we can get in touch and get more information? Thanks much. I would say for that, we've heard from a lot of you guys that there are Facebook groups. So you can definitely get into those Facebook groups for Portugal or specifically for the city that you're looking for.
Yeah, and one of our old competitors, Internations, we're no longer really competitors with them because we're not in the same space. Now we're doing media. Internations is an amazing site that you guys can become members of and start to connect. But Facebook groups are so common now that that's also an option.
And you get real people and real experiences from those Facebook groups. So definitely it's much better than just reading blogs or just reading information.
Wait, we want them to read our blogs.
Well, we're not blogging about this. Watch our videos because we're real people. But, you want to get a feel for people rather than just reading something. Because sometimes when you do read blogs, you're not sure if there's an ulterior motive, click this link because I get paid or whatever. So they're saying certain things because of that. So that's stuff that we, with our videos, try to just put out real information. We don't get anything from what the person says or what we're saying. We're not getting anything. So
and we're not paying them for the interviews.
No. So it's nothing like that. We just want to get real authentic information out to you guys. Yeah. And so I think you get that a bit more when you get into those Facebook groups as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so lastly, something that's been asked a lot too is about the checklist. I am an organized person and I have a million checklists. So I've got stuff for the baby, for the dog, for the VFS, I have a lot of checklists. And we have talked about that in the vlogs. So some of you guys have already emailed. If you are interested in seeing the checklists that I've created, if you have pets or just for VFS or just stuff that I have put together from the Portuguese Embassy, just go ahead and email us at expatseverywhere@gmail.com and I can show you those checklists that I have.
Yep, guys, thank you so much. We had no idea that this thing was going to be this long, but we thank you for staying to the end. If you aren't a subscriber, I don't really know why you've stayed this long, but you should hit the subscribe button straight away. Thank you, guys. Hit the like button. We love you. We really appreciate you following us on this journey. Take care.
Bye.